Thanks for tuning into District 32 Radio Online, where we talk about all sorts of business matters. One of the big business matters for a company and for a business to actually promote itself is its brand. It's critical to the whole thing because it says everything it needs to say and trying to expand who you are, what you are, why you are. And Wayne Curtis from Notions joins us because he knows a little bit about branding. How are you, Wayne?
I'm good, mate. Thank you very much.
The importance of branding. We hear about it a lot, but why is it so important?
I think, firstly, brand is all-encompassing. So what we do at Notions is we develop the visual side of your brand mark, and, all the collateral that goes around that. So that's marketing, all that sort of thing. Brand is a lot more than that. It's the way you speak on the phone. Mm-hmm. It's the persona of the business. It's the ethos of the company. It's the way your employees think about your company.
What sort of company cars your
exactly,
reps drive, all that sort of thing, yeah?
Exactly. So most people that come to us for help when it comes to their visual brand, they're either rebranding from an existing business or, they're a new company. It may be a small trades-based business, or it may be a larger sort of corporation. We've got both types of businesses on our books.
With the newer ones, obviously, starting a new business, cash is tight. There's a proliferation of programs, including just stock standard Microsoft stuff and Windows stuff that you can go, I can be a designer.
Yes.
I can come up with a logo with that funny little squiggly bit. And,
absolutely.
And I like Times New Roman as a font. That's really good. and I can do that. Save myself a couple of $100. Why wouldn't you do that?
Well, probably in the last 2 years, we've had several companies come back to us that have used an online design competition, or they've used one of the other many products that are out there. I think the problem is that the people that are doing it for you really are only interested in making a quick buck. A lot of them aren't even designers, or they think they're designers. They've done a course and they're doing a bit of work after hours to make some money. So generally, they don't care about your business, or they're not asking the right questions. I mean, if you're coming up with a brand mark for your business, you've got to be thinking about your business, the future of your business, where you're going, where you're headed, what your company's all about, the market, the service, all that sort of thing. So these people generally, I'm not saying that people haven't done that sort of thing and been happy. They have, but the reality is, we had a guy come to us and he was a trades-based business, and another tradie had purchased exactly the same templated logo and put it on the side of his van, and he wasn't very happy.
Good.
He spent $100, and I said, well, what do you expect?
There is that.
Yes. So caring about a company, the time that you need to spend on developing a brand mark has a research element. It's knowing who your competition is and what colour schemes are using, what they're actually naming their business. A lot of people will just use their name or get something off the shelf. It's not the way
or initials
to go.
Or something like that. Yes.
Yeah. So caring a bit more about that, because that's going to be the future. And if you jump into it and you just think about throwing a logo or something to your family name, that might not have the legs to carry you moving forward.
The temptation to do that, to use your own name, because everyone's got a bit of an ego, and it's Bill's business, so let's call it Bill's whatever it is, and
that's right.
Bill's the main guy and all that sort of thing. And he probably, when he starts, he hasn't got that vision. No. He hasn't gone, what happens if I want to go international or national or franchise or whatever it is, or what if I want to retire or sell the business or whatever it may be. So in coming up with a name, to actually sit down and convince someone, or I suppose convince is the right word, but certainly explore that, to come up with a name. How difficult is it to get past that, family name thing or personal name thing?
I think it's more about maybe showing them some case studies of previous types of businesses and branding that has been done by successful companies in the past. Look, using a family name or something like that is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes when you're rebranding, the power behind that name is so strong that it makes no sense at all to change it.
The lead up to the election, I'd actually I haven't seen her in the media for, 20 years or something, but Maud from Miss Maud's was on there the other day with the coffee bean thing about the election. She's holding her age fairly well.
Yep.
And considerable age that it must be by now.
That's right.
But I mean, that's an example. Miss Maud built on her.
That's the power. That's right. And also, people need to understand that building a brand not just the brand mark and the visual look of your company, but the whole brand takes time. It takes a team effort. You know, it's not just about your clients. A good brand creates loyalty with your clients. But it also creates loyalty within the company with your employees.
Yes.
Because they have a sense of being, of what they're about. We're all on the same page. There's an ethos. There's a direction for this company.
Becoming a preferred employer, all that sort of thing. Yeah.
And we like to, I mean, our motto is fluid thinking, solid results. We chose that because we like to immerse ourselves into a company to understand what they're about, to understand their belief system, what they need to do, what they're trying to achieve, so that we can then reflect that through their marketing collateral and their visual.
That tagline you just came up with.
Yes.
So is it fluid thinking?
Solid results.
Solid results. A tagline for a business can be...
Very important.
Very important. How do you go about the process of identifying what a tagline should be? One that, you don't want one that is really sort of so basic and so simple that it just, it's naff.
Yep.
But equally, you don't want one that's so clever and intricate that people look at it and go, what was he taking that night?
Yeah. It's no different to naming your business and naming your company. The tagline, in a lot of cases, people use to explain what they're looking at. You know, because some people would choose a name and people don't get it. So it doesn't communicate well.
Yeah.
And so they use that tagline to help communicate what it is they're trying to show visually.
But I mean, quite often you'll see something, and I guess one that springs to mind, and this isn't a real example, but the concept is a transport company that is called, let's say J&W Industries, and its tagline is Moving Australia. Yeah. That sort of thing.
Yep.
The moving bit, gives you a clue.
Yeah.
But that's about all it does, doesn't it? It doesn't actually explain anything.
That's right. And I think that's the power of taking a good brief. I mean, if we're working on any logo or brand mark for any client, we take a brief. And from that brief, we get an understanding of what they're about. And if we feel that a strap line is the way to go, then we would definitely suggest that. And that just goes through any other creative process. We take the brief, we understand the brief, then we put down a series of examples of possible alternatives. And we're happy to work with our clients. We're not going to stand back and say, no, we're the designers, we've got all the experience, we know what we're doing, you listen to us.
Sure.
I don't think that creates great relationships. I would prefer to give my advice and my experience, but I like working with clients.
Yeah.
I think, again, it fits in with that fluidity, working together to achieve something, a common goal.
We've seen lots of examples throughout Australia, but certainly in WA. It seems to be more often with government departments than anything else. When you talk about rebranding, the big one that springs to mind a few years back was the move from R&I Bank to Bank West.
Yep.
With the name change as well as a rebranding. So it was a bit of both.
Yep.
Government departments are forever, for whatever reason, changing their name, changing their logo and having to redo everything and that sort of stuff. What would drive you to? Because you've got the other example where a company like Vegemite, for instance, went through a phase where they tried to change a few things and it created uproar because it was such an icon.
Yes.
Is there that temptation from companies to go, well, we've had the same logo for 20 years, we should change the logo just because it's 20 years old, not because we can actually come up with a better one?
Yeah, well, if you look at some of the big brands, like Apple, for instance, I mean, they've changed a number of times over the years. Coca-Cola are fairly similar and fairly standardised, but they've introduced different changes through short periods of time. So they've done things that have been market driven. And most proactive businesses are always, if they're staying on top of their game, understand that if the market has changed, if their catchment or their potential audience has changed, that sometimes that dictates that they need to change and move with what's happening in the market. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're completely changing and destroying anything that was in the past, but it just means that they're updating, they're upgrading, they're staying with it and understanding that the people that they're now talking to have moved and changed. Their likes and dislikes have changed. So, they're staying on top of their game and they're branding as subtle variances.
So someone sitting there at the moment listening to this going, my business name doesn't really say anything.
Yep.
I haven't got a tagline or it doesn't accurately reflect what I do. I haven't got a consistent brand. What are the couple of things that they need to sit down and consider, even before they call you, but just to consider first to go and come to that realisation that they need to pay attention to it? Normally,
you'll find that most people get a bit of an idea from the people they're dealing with, their clients, friends or always go, when are you going to change that business card? That's bloody awful. Or what the hell does that logo mean anyway? And, I know it was your niece that did it, but it still means nothing to me. So those are pretty sort of definite hints. And I think that, people need to understand that revamping or coming up with a new logo doesn't necessarily mean they have to break the bank. But there's a lot of businesses that spend so much money and invest so much money into their plant and equipment and their building and their vehicles. And then when it comes to actually the marketing side, they've got a couple of $100 they can scratch together. And I go, I don't get it. I just don't get it. If you're going to invest, if you're going to borrow money for a new business and a premises, then include that in it. Go to someone like myself and get some idea of what the costs are involved to actually help. So when you've got all that machinery up and working and you've got the guys out on the road in the new vehicles, that you've actually got a brand out there that people are going to recognise. Spend the time and the detail and the research doing that properly as well, and it'll all come together. It'll be a better fit.
Very cool. To contact you and have a discussion about your brand, what's the best way?
You can do it through my website. Oh, I've moved away from the mic. Yes. Sorry, mate. You can do it through my website or through my email address, wayne@notionsdesign.com.au. We have various packages that are available for small startup businesses right through to larger businesses. And obviously, the bigger the package, the more collateral and marketing materials are involved. And we'll sit down and have a chat. It's free, a cup of coffee, and get an idea, and it's pretty straightforward.
Excellent. Good advice.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for your time.
Awesome.
Wayne Curtis from Notions Design. If you are thinking about rebranding or establishing a brand, good man to speak to. So make sure you contact him, and we'll be back with more very shortly on District 32 Radio.